do tonight is, a lot of you I haven't met, and so I just want to kind of introduce myself, who I am and what I stand for, and why I believe that Bob Corker must be defeated in 2012. So we'll start off a little bit about me. I've been married for 11 years to my wife Lenore, and we have a 10-year-old daughter who is named after President Reagan. So, if you're looking for a conservative, you can kind of check that off, right? I served in the United States Army during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and I currently today work in the private sector, where my specialty is really driving performance and efficiency through measurements. So how many of us here would like to know how our government is doing on implementing various programs? Most of us. The problem is that they don't measure effectiveness. They don't measure if they're actually achieving their goal or their objective. And that's one thing that we need to stop. I am just like many of you in the room here tonight. I work hard for a living for my family. And as I travel the state, believe me, I feel the impact, the effects of the economy at the gas station and at the grocery store. What we are really tired of, I believe, is that we all are frustrated with our representatives. We're frustrated because of their lack of courage. If we look to see what courage means by the Webster Dictionary, we see that it is to act in accordance to one's belief in spite of criticism. Therefore, courage is doing the right thing for the right reason. Courage is upholding the Constitution, not finding ways around it. And courage is standing for right. Because when you stand for right, that means that you stand against wrong. You see, when we looked up courage in the dictionary, it didn't say courage was cowardice, seeking self-interest, or self-indulging. Therefore, courage isn't checking in with your congressional office to see how many calls you've received on a particular issue so that you know how to vote. Courage isn't being politically correct or trying to be all things to all people. But most importantly, and this is what's driving our country in the ground, is courage is not standing for wrong today in hopes of standing for right tomorrow. Many people today are talking about the relevancy of the Constitution. Is the Constitution a valid document? Many people say, it's outdated. Our founding fathers could have never imagined that we would be sending someone to the moon. Therefore, they could not imagine the kind of government that we require today. But those people that say that fail to realize one important fact, and that principles are timeless. Whenever you compromise your principles, you will see your very foundation crumble beneath you. And isn't that what we're experiencing today? So when you hear people talk about the relevancy of the Constitution, you should confront them and tell them, if the Constitution is taken away or replaced with something, what will it be replaced with? And number two is, will that document secure more freedom or less freedom? You see, there's some confusion about what freedom is and isn't. What we enjoy as Americans is unique in any place in the world. And it doesn't have to do with freedom. You see, we have seen two dictators being taken down recently, Gaddafi and Mubarak. Their citizens enjoyed freedom. Although it may be limited, they did have freedoms. The question is, who possessed their liberty? What makes the United States so different is that people came to this country so that they could be the sole possessors of their individual liberty. When people tell you that the Constitution is no longer relevant, what they're telling you is they don't understand America. And what they're telling you is they don't understand the Constitution. Because the Constitution represents a contract. And it isn't a contract between the states and the federal government. It's not even a contract between the states. As the preamble of the Constitution so clearly defines, it is a contract between we, the people. You see, we could only do that because we possess liberty. We define what powers the federal government could have and what powers the state governments could have. You can only do that when you possess, when you are the sole owner of liberty. So people ask me, well, Zach, why do you want to be a politician? I don't want to be a politician. I'm just like many of you in the room. I'm frustrated with what I see, and I'm a patriot. You see, this country was founded with patriots. You were either a patriot or you were a loyalist. And a loyalist was following an agenda, a King George agenda. So I ask you today, are you a patriot? Are you following the intent of the Constitution? Or are you being mindful, or are you protecting a politician or a party or an agenda? So when you talk to the people that are trying to put aside the Constitution, what is their main motivation? They're pushing an agenda. They are not patriots. I'm running because I see our elected officials turning on our founding principles. They're infringing on our state rights. They're degrading our personal liberty. And they're stealing my daughters, your children, and your grandchildren's future. You see, I understand, like many of you, that the greatest threat to the United States of America, to our security and to our personal liberty, is our national debt. You see, when you see maps that were leaked that showed the plans that Iran has for their naval ships to surround the United States, the question you have to ask yourself is, are they real? But number two is, if they are, how will we defend ourselves? You see, if that were true and there was an attack on the American soil, who would lend us the money so that we could protect ourselves? China? They recently are selling arms to Iran. Russia? Japan? When the going gets tough, who is going to come to the aid of the United States? Nobody. So we can either control our debt, meaning we can control what's going to happen, or we can wait until it all falls apart, and then we have chaos. We have a choice. And our elected officials will not demonstrate the courage necessary for that decision. Many people say, well, Zach, I understand we need to get these Democrats out. You know, because, hey, they passed Obamacare. But Bob Corker, he's a Republican. He's not the problem. And to them I say respectfully, Bob Corker is the biggest part of the problem. Because he claims to be something that he's not.
That's right.
And that is a conservative. That is a constitutionalist. You can look at Bob Corker's votes and see for yourself whether it's personal property. We just saw a movie on Agenda 21 or sustainable development. He brought ICLEI into Chattanooga when he was mayor. He has recently passed, or both him and Lamar Alexander have co-sponsored a bill called the Tennessee Wilderness Act of 2011, which grants 20,000 acres of Tennessee land to the federal government. Property rights. But property rights go more than just the physical property. Property rights are, as the Constitution guarantees, exclusive rights to authors and patents, to inventors. Bob Corker recently voted yes on the American Patent Act, which changed our patent law that had been in existence since the beginning of time. Bob Corker voted to move from a first to invent to a first to file methodology. Who does that protect? The individual or the big business? So if I'm an inventor creates something in my workshop, knowing that it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to file that patent paperwork. Someone else finds out about what I'm doing, they could rush to the patent office and file that patent. And they could secure that patent out from under me. Where today, before then, it was the first to invent. So I could prove that I was the first inventor of that invention. Well, where does Bob Corker stand on national security? Well, I encourage you to look up and do some research on the New START Treaty that he voted to ratify with Russia. It prevents the United States from deploying a European missile defense system. It also contains language that allows things to be changed within the treaty without going back through Senate approval. Separation of powers is paramount in the structure of the Constitution. And when our senators vote in this manner, they begin to degrade that separation of powers. But you say, but Zach, that's only one instant. We're all human, we make mistakes. Well, Bob Corker also voted for the Presidential Efficiency and Streamlining Act, which took the control away from the Senate for confirmation of presidential appointments. Which appointments? They haven't been identified yet. There's a committee that's going to identify certain positions that shouldn't be required to go through the Senate. Why would the Senate do this? They say, well, you know, our founders could never imagine that our government would get this big. Well, instead of addressing the impact of the size of our government, our elected officials choose to degrade and to abuse our Constitution. So whether it's personal property rights, whether it's national security, separation of powers, Bob Corker has failed us in every instance. You know, if an elected official voted one time against the Constitution, that would be reason enough to hold him accountable and vote him out of office. You know, in 2012, we have an opportunity to implement the people's term limit. And the people's term limit is held at the ballot box. So I know many of you in here may not disagree with a lot that I say today. But I encourage you that unless we band together and we stand united on the founding principles, 2012 is a paramount year in American history. And it will be marked as a year that Americans regained their liberty, or it was the year that it was too far gone. You know, I've entered this race because I felt that I no longer can complain about the choices that we have on the ballot box if I myself am not willing to run? Well, I'm running. So as for me, I've made my decision. The choice is yours today. You know, I tell people, don't wait. Don't wait until January. Don't wait until March to decide whether you're going to support Zach Poskevich for U.S. Senate. You need to decide today. Why? Because waiting and sitting silent only helps Bob Corker. You see, if we are to beat the richest Republican in the Senate, we have to start today. To build that coalition across this state that is representative of we, the people, that want to regain our liberty. So I encourage you to ask me your questions one-on-one at the end of the meeting at the table, or we'll have a question and answer session after the meeting today. But ask your questions. Don't leave here wondering, can I support Zach Poskevich? Is Zach Poskevich the guy? If you leave here with that, I have failed. I need you to answer your questions tonight so that we can get started and so that we can have the outcome that we all desire in 2012. I thank you for your time, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.